Hey there! Welcome back to Reddit Dating, best channel for cheating stories. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more spicy stories.
I, 25 male, discovered my wife, 24 female, cheating 4 days ago. I need assistance in going ahead. To provide some context, my wife and I met when we were approximately 10 years old. We've had a thing for each other since we were kids, but it wasn't until we were 18 that it became serious. I knew she was madly in love with me, and I was madly in love with her, therefore the only logical next step was marriage. When we were 21, I proposed to her on Valentine's Day over a weekend away, and the rest is history. We both make ends meet with respectable careers, lovely well-kept homes, no children, a great group of friends, and polite families. In my opinion, everything was wonderful. When I started using her phone, the adultery began. I saw messages to a man from her workplace. This wasn't overt flirting, but it was unusual and provocative to me. He'd say things like, "I've had such a long day at work," and she'd say things like, "I've had such a long day at work." I confessed that I have a temper, and I was not going to let this happen. I told her she couldn't contact him, that she couldn't block him in front of my face, and that she wouldn't have me if she did. She did all I requested of her. This leads me to Sunday evening. My cousin and I run a company together. We began it at the age of 20, and it quickly took off. We have an office where I sometimes sleep when my job load becomes too much for me. I generally order in and get the job done, and if it's too late, I'll sleep it off. So I texted my wife about lunchtime. "Me and cousin are probably going to be held here all night. I'll order in so you can dine without me and don't have to wait up. I adore you." She answered minutes later, saying she was sorry she wouldn't be able to meet me that night, but she wished me luck with my job and stated she loved me as well. Everything was fine. Think about late that night. I decided that work had eaten up too much of my weekend, and that I needed to visit my wife, whom I assumed also wanted to see me. So, about 7 p.m., I started making my way home. When I arrived home, I heard voices upstairs, but couldn't make them out, so I walked up and saw my wife and the man. I acknowledged that I didn't manage it as well as I could have. I began by hitting his *** as he attempted to look guy. "I'm sorry." I threw him out and told him he had to go home without his shoes. My wife was frantic from the time I stepped in, and I almost got violent with her as well, but I didn't. Throughout it all, she screamed and cried, insisting it was a mistake, but at this time, my fears from the text messages had been validated. I constantly urged her to conserve her breath, and that I didn't want to hear any of her illogical justifications. I debated returning to the workplace, but I said no that, telling her to gather her belongings and stay wherever the she could. I wanted her out of my sight. Since then, she has remained with her closest buddy. Since then, her friends and family have blown up my phone, but I've ignored them. I did, however, inform her father of what had occurred. He was furious and sided with me. My rage has given way to regret at the idea that our, nearly, lifetime adventure has been thrown away for some sleazy person from her workplace from the first day. I've been keeping busy, but I'd be lying if I claimed I haven't spent every spare time sulking/crying/lamenting over what occurred. I'll be calling attorneys first thing tomorrow morning to start the divorce process. Okay, so a lot has occurred since the previous article. I apologize in advance for the length of this post. Also, I'd want to express how much I liked everyone's comments on the first post. I've done quite a few things since the initial post. I had my STD tested and everything was okay. I turned over my portion of the company to my business partner, relative, temporarily until the divorce is finalized. I terminated her phone contract that I paid for. I put down all of her photographs, I packed all of her clothing, and I have been up with someone. So let me get started. The fact that my STD test came back negative was a positive start, but it wasn't enough to lift my spirits. I won't sugarcoat it, the issue still bothered me. I couldn't forget about it since she and her friends were continually blowing up my phone. I ultimately went to meet with her parents. Her mother tried to get me back into the family, but her father knew I was set in my ways, and was disappointed in his daughter. This occurred around 2 days following the post. I like her father and think we'll keep in touch since we're both simple guys who understand one another. I've always admired him, and it's a pity his daughter is preventing me from officially being his son anymore. I ignored her friends, who had phoned me more times than I could count. It helped that I spent a lot of time with my friends and family. I had a buddy over, and we spent a few hours photographing her and removing all of her belongings from the home. This was really soothing for me, and it felt like I was removing a stain from my life. It was much more beneficial than I anticipated. Divorce processes have begun, however I fear I will have severe difficulties with her signing the documents and so forth. I've already signed away my stake of my business, so she can't get her paws on it. I've avoided any communication except with attorneys, as you all instructed. I debated using the man's wife as leverage in case he attempted to bring charges against me. I laid hands on him when I caught him in my home. Finally, I reasoned, why not, and messaged her on Facebook. She originally believed me, but then stated he informed her it was a lie. All I had to do was show her the doorbell video of him approaching my front door and getting escorted out without his shoes. I don't believe he's still blissfully married. Now for the next chapter. My mom believed I'd like attending her work's Christmas party. I figured why not, I hadn't gone out since the event and needed a break. I went and was introduced to the daughter of one of her co-workers. We hit it off and left the party together, but we didn't go out that night. She came over a couple nights before Christmas Eve, and we hit it off right away. We woke her up many times, and she ended up staying for 2 nights. Now, she's not a love at first sight substitute for my wife, but she is a nice lady who is surely keeping me company at a time when I need it the most. Christmas Day was more difficult than I imagined since I'd spent it with my so for a long, but having my family around me, feeding and watering me, helped a lot. Overall, I believe I am dealing much better than I anticipated. I just wanted to thank everyone who reached out to me, everyone who left a kind remark, and everyone who has gone through the same situation and is still standing strong. Story number 2. My wife cheated on me with my best friend. Our parents' wishes for us to reconcile. My ex-best friend's wife informed me about 4 months ago that my wife and her husband are having an affair. My soon-to-be ex-wife was circumspect. He didn't think so. His wife provided me with a plethora of evidence, including in photographs. I was done when I found out the affair had been going on for years. Call records and messages go back to when I was still working 16-hour days to get my engineering degree, including evenings when the girls were supposed to be out and I was at home minding kids. Her pals were all cheating on their spouses and covering for one another. His wife chose to reconnect only due to a lack of financial resources to leave him. I opted to divorce my wife. I hired a lawyer and devised a strategy before approaching her. I threw my wife out of my home, changed the locks, divided the finances, and served her papers once I got all I needed. She had no claim to the home, and I had movers deliver her belongings to her parents. She's been struggling since we broke up. She's had to move in with college-aged housemates and begin working 2 jobs. My parents and her parents intervened today, urging us to reconcile for the sake of the children. The children are okay. They are with me 90% of the time. Our parents have been listening to her tales while she downplays the fact that she was banging my ex-best buddy the whole time. She's really apologetic, so it's okay. They were furious at the manner I publicly exposed her affair and evicted her. They described it as immature and spiteful. Furthermore, despite being acquainted with her and her family for almost a decade, they believe that my continued contact with my ex-best friend's wife is wrong. They even accused us of having an inappropriate relationship, despite the fact that they had no evidence of anything slightly wrong. We're not having any. We're not kissing each other. We are not in a relationship. We watch each other's children, converse over coffee, and trade favors. If her kids remain for supper a couple times a week while she's in class, I save her a plate of food. I'm his wife's sole relative in our state since her family abandoned her after her husband was arrested and sentenced to jail for with minors, including his wife's underage cousin, and embezzling money from real estate investors immediately after he was exposed for infidelity. I'm completely taken aback. I've been devastated and deceived again. Despite the fact that I've informed her it's over and tried to avoid touch, she simply can't take no for an answer, and now has everyone on her side. I'm not going to take her back. She's only sad she was found, that her affair partner went to jail, and that she lost all of her money. She's not sorry for deceiving me for years while treating me like an idiot. I labored for years to provide a wonderful life for her and me, and I succeeded. If she hadn't been discovered by his wife, she'd still be him in a hotel room or driving his vehicle on her back. My soon-to-be ex-wife also made the charges that his wife outed her in order to exact vengeance and take her life. My wife is now saving herself for the day when I will take her back. The life of my ex-best friend's wife has been a train catastrophe. She and her children were left destitute and on the verge of homelessness when their assets were taken. I've done enough to ensure that doesn't happen. She has lost the majority of her family as a result of this. None of this was her fault, and she was as taken aback as I was. Throughout it all, she's been a great friend and confidant.